okay? The integrity and credibility of the group is essential. If there's all kinds of funny stories about, oh, I had a trouble with this, or I started this business and, you know, I didn't pay back somebody with this, and, you know, I went bankrupt with this, I mean, it gets, let's face it, you know, that scares off investors, professional investors for sure, okay? And, you know, clearly we expect, you got to have a knowledge of the business, the industry, whatever it is, whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. You have to be very, you know, well in tune with what you're trying to do. You have to have something that says, hey, these people know more than other people, okay? And clearly the perseverance, the dedication, the enthusiasm, the ability to just keep charging forward, to never stop, to want to succeed, and by the way, not for just the money. The thing I hate to see, and I think most investors hate to see, if you ask a person why they're getting in business, why they want to build a business, because I want to get rich, wrong motivation. Usually, I mean, it's great to get rich, don't get me wrong, but if that's the only reason, there's probably not going to be enough gumption in those people. They're really proving something else. You know, maybe I'll go back to a Steve Jobs story. It just popped into my mind. I wasn't planning on telling it. When I first went to work for Apple, Apple went public in 1981. Steve was a hippie then. He was driving around in a Volkswagen, okay? And I was much more of a professional guy. You know, I had a vest and a tie and all that stuff, and the typical accountant. And he's driving around in this Volkswagen, and in the Volkswagen, stuffed inside the glove box, is all of his Apple shares. He could have, and I'll tell you, you know, when we sold Pixar to Disney, Steve's ownership in dollar value of Pixar was $3.2 billion. That's what he retained, okay? He gave away about half the company. He kept half the company. Money was never a factor for him. You know, that isn't what he was all about. He made billions of dollars, but that was sort of an aside, okay? Those kinds of people are rare, but, you know, I mean, there's something else that motivates. I'm looking at it with I've seen it with other companies I've been involved in. There's more than just making money. They want to prove themselves. They want to be successful. They have an idea. They're passionate about it. They love it, whatever it is they're doing. And I hope that's all true for you. That, you know, there's something bigger that they want to accomplish. And yeah, if it's all right and everything works and everything lines up, then maybe you get rich, you know. But don't define success necessarily just on the dollar value. I mean, I know it helps, but it's not always just that. The other thing that investors want to see is a great market opportunity. Go back to Rob's matrix. I think it covers it well. I mean, you've got to have something that can be significant. Clearly something that's growing, undiscovered, underserved, okay? You know, these are things that we look for in a business. What's going to make it go? Good value proposition, a customer need. Maybe the customer doesn't even understand they need it. That's okay. But nevertheless, you figured it out, and then you go convince them. And clearly it has to be in tune with the market. You know, it's what's going on in the world at the time. You know, there's things that can be in sync and out of sync. Here's a classic example, of course. You know, this Stone Age guy is figuring out he can invent a wheel, but what the hell are they going to do with it at that time, you know? So, you know, you want to be in tune with technological and market trends. Now, what else do they look for? There's a lot of stuff investors look for. So if you're trying to raise capital, you need to be cognizant of this. They're looking for a clear differentiation. I can tell you this, in my own personal life, when I've invested in companies, you know, as a private individual, you're looking for an unfair advantage, if at all possible. You want to say, hey, does this company have something that really is going to allow them to succeed? And hopefully it's, when I say unfair, I don't mean it's something they stole, or they violated somebody's patent, or stole somebody else's idea. I just mean that they've figured something out somebody else hasn't figured out, they developed something, they were creative, and it really gives them a leg up against their competition. It's the hole in the competition armor. something that's proprietary, fresh, unique. Proprietary is great if you have it. It doesn't have to be proprietary in the sense that somebody else can't do it. There's a few companies here, Twitter, Chipotle, GoPro, they're all different. GoPro, by the way, is that high-definition camera, the sport camera that you can use on your helmet and stuff. It's a slick little product. It's the hero camera. Obviously, everybody's got cameras today, but still, they've made a great business out of this unique way of doing it and added a lot of value to how the camera can be used. Chipotle Grill, another Mexican restaurant, but they came up with a formula that worked, and set them apart from their competitors. That's what figuring the sunflower is all about. How do you do that? Twitter, of course, new technology, new ways of doing it. Barriers to entry are great. You love to see barriers to entry, right? And they can be all kinds of things, but if you have that, that's wonderful, and it's an important part of your business plan, clearly. And clearly the value proposition has to be very good, as Rob has already covered, so I don't want to belabor that. Add a lot of value to what you're doing. Now, I know there was a question earlier, I just wanted to add on to it, but this gentleman here about selling luxury goods. Being a consumer of luxury goods, I said, yeah, that's a good question. What the hell caused me to buy that stuff? Well, sometimes it's the sheer way something is implemented, the pure quality of it. That's a differentiator. Think about it. People pay millions of dollars for yachts, tens of thousands of dollars for jewelry. How do you decide one piece from it? So it's harder. There's no question it's harder because trying to define a value proposition to an investor, but it happens. It does happen. Efficient use of capital. I can't emphasize this enough. This is another way of saying what my first slide with the tombstone said. If you can't use capital efficiently, you probably will run out of cash and you'll die, okay? So we also look for, ideally, a business model, and this is the key word, the business model, that hopefully has something unique in it that does something in a way that adds great value at a significantly lower cost or not requiring as much to market or to develop or whatever. Okay, Rob did it with the Ascend product. There's all kinds of examples of that. And I look for that a lot. I think I'm big on business models. A great example now, somebody asked a question about the internet and services. We right now have seen, we've all been through this amazing explosion of the internet and what it's done for the creation of new businesses. And it's been amazing, and it still goes on, right? And we're now going into another phase, and that is, all this infrastructure had to be put in place, right? We had to have, whether it was telephone lines or cable or fiber optics, satellites, and then you had to have machines that could deal with the bandwidth and then software that could deal with all that. And, but think about all this infrastructure that's put in place. Billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars. But look at what some of these companies who are successful are doing. They're building on top of that infrastructure. Doesn't cost them a penny or very little, maybe nothing for the infrastructure, okay? And so now we're going into a phase of what's called cloud computing, where a lot of these services, a lot of these solutions are going to be out there in the cloud. Rob's company, Comply, is a perfect example of that. They've come up with a very innovative product that's cloud-based, leverages on top of this enormous infrastructure, but the differentiator is what they were able to create utilizing that underlying technology. Obviously, the business plan has to be credible to believe that it can be attained, not pie in the sky kinds of things. You use outsourcing, use distributors, leverage, back to what I just said, leverage off other existing businesses to add your value. Add a little value, make a lot of money.